I've been investigating Ghostface attacks. He's here in New York.
Hello, Gail. Did you miss me?
You want to try and finish this? Go ahead.
I'm something different.
We've got to lure him in. We execute him.
Scream, only in theaters March 10th.
It's officially March. And you know what that means. College basketball is about to get crazy.
Stack and I are teaming up with DraftKings to give you a shot at glory.
That's right. New customers, sign up for DraftKings using promo code SMOKE and put at least $5 down on any pregame money line for any basketball game. If your pick hits, you receive an additional $150 in bonus bets.
College basketball is full of upsets, so there's a lot of opportunities to win big.
Wondering what you can use $150 in bonus bets on? Try out same-game parlays, where you can combine multiple bets for one game for even bigger winnings.
If mobile sports betting is not available in your state, don't worry. You can still get in on the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code SMOKE. Bet $5 on the pregame money line for a basketball game and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code SMOKE, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Every Friday, head over to the DraftKings app and check out the All the Smoke Same Game Parlay.
With the same game parlay hits, you win big. See who we're taking on Friday. And if you like the pick, ride along with us.
The action only happens at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Welcome to What's Burnin'. I'm here with Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson. Guys, we've had all kinds of technical problems this morning. I think the moral of the story is we all just have to hang out in the same place from now on. All right, guys, we got to talk about the Knicks to start because they are red hot. 9 straight wins as we sit here today. Only the Bucks, Nuggets, and Sixers have a hotter record since the start of 2023. Julius Randle said this is a better, more talented team than the Knicks team that caught fire in the spring 2 years ago. You guys remember it was like a huge thing. Everyone was like, oh my God, Knicks tape, Knicks mania. They made it into the first round against Atlanta, and then they only won one basketball game in the playoffs. So do you guys think that we can expect more from this Knicks team this year, the way Julius Randle says? We're looking at maybe them playing Cleveland in the first round, maybe.
I do. I really like this team. And I got to give Jalen Brunson some more props because I didn't think he would have this effect on the team. Not only is he playing his best basketball, but in the process, I feel like he's helping slowly but surely change this culture. And I think Jalen Brunson's arrival, not only on the offensive end, the defensive end, and his leadership, has also freed Julius Randle of any kind of playmaking that he has to do. I mean, right now, he's just focused on scoring. And this guy's a bucket. They're one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. The only thing that worries me about this team, and obviously Brunson is out right now, all Tibbs teams, he always plays his stars high, long minutes the entire season. He doesn't really go too much in his bench, so I hope that doesn't affect this team's run. But I really like this Knicks team. I have to say I'm surprised like everyone else, but they're playing really good basketball, and they're a good team.
Yeah, I think they could possibly make it out the first round. I don't think second round, and then that depends on the matchups, who they play. You know, this is a young team that they're peaking at the right time. You want to be playing like this going into the postseason. You want to have a good feel about yourself and have everything healthy. I mean, have everybody healthy. Now, like Matt said, playing a lot of minutes. You know, those guys could be drained in the first round and not make it out because the basketball level goes up way up another notch, right? So. It really depends on who they match up with and how those guys feel going into their first round. But the way they playing right now, this is definitely the way you want to play going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the offense that they're laying out there, it's not so typical Tibbs. I mean, first of all, they're 6th in the league in their offensive rating. That's interesting. And they're not doing it with a lot of three-pointers. They're 20th in the league in threes. So what they're doing it is every other way. They're rebounding great. They're getting to the line great. They're getting those timely contributions from people in the right moments. They've had some great play in the clutch during this streak. I will say they have tightened up the rotation. I think it was back in December, Tibbs tightened the rotation to 9, and that gets at exactly what you're talking about, Matt, is a lot of minutes. Julius Randle, second amount of minutes in the league this season. Jalen Brunson has been playing a lot. He's a little on the smaller side. He's listed at 6'2". I don't know. I mean, everyone's taller than me, so who knows? But to me, he does not appear to be 6'2" on the court. How much is that going to be an issue during the playoffs? Because we know what happens to smaller guards.
His heart is 6'8".
I buy that.
Yeah, we saw him have success with Dallas last year in the playoffs. So I don't really put too much into his height. He's just a really smart player. He's a 3-level scorer. He's someone who at however 6'1", he can post guards up that he's stronger than. He's got a nice mid-range. He shoots the ball well. He makes plays for this team. Also, I think another person who's come, and I love the energy he's brought, is his former Villanova teammate, Josh Hart. He's brought up a ton of energy, hitting big shots, and then Quigley is playing really well too. So I'm excited. Obviously, I agree with Jack. I think it's all on the matchups, and I don't want to get caught in the moment. But if it is Cleveland and New York, earlier in the season, I would have thought Cleveland, would handle them easily. But I really don't know right now. So I'm excited to see how they finish down this stretch and who their first-round matchup is. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them make the second round.
You know it's going to be spicy if it's Cavs-Knicks, especially with Donovan Mitchell and the whole subplot of last summer and which team was he going to go to and all of that. Look, I love Jalen Brunson. I'm with you guys, and I want to just read you some of his numbers over the past 2 months. Averaging 28 points a game, shooting 51%, 45% from three. Obviously, he's just gotten better and better each year. Stack, what do you think Brunson's ceiling is? Like, how good a player can he be?
I think he can be a all-star. Especially in the East. If he stay in the East, he can be an all-star for multiple years. The way he's leading the team, the way all the guys are buying in and letting him control the pace of the game. Definitely when the game's on the line and the play needs to be made, the ball is in his hands. So just the confidence he's brought to that team, Rach. I know the heart this kid has because I know his pops. And bringing that to the Knicks and making everybody buy in and feel that same energy and passion for the game and hunger. I think that says a lot about this kid, and he has a high ceiling, Rich. He can be an all-star for multiple years.
I think he's playing with a lot of confidence, too. And New York is one of those places where you can feel the energy and feel the vibe and be playing on a whole nother planet. So I think his biggest thing right now is his confidence. Obviously, he very talented player, but he's very confident right now, and it's a very silent, confident leadership. Can get where he wants on the court, can control the game like Jack says. So I'm really happy for this kid. And to think, going into the summer, people thought, the Knicks overpaid. I can easily say right now he's definitely underpaid because I feel like he's playing at an all NBA level. May not be a first team, but he'll find himself on possibly that second or third team.
I do think he is underpaid considering what he's contributing and the effort. I mean, first of all, the whole team is playing hard as hell. Like, they are fun to watch. If you caught any of these games this last couple weeks, they are just fun. But Brunson in particular, they were playing a game against the Nets, and there was less than 5 minutes to go. And I think that the Knicks were up by like 26 points. Jalen Brunson is not only still in the game because, Tom Thibodeau, but he goes to take a charge, and he didn't get the call. He starts arguing. Tibbs actually did a coach's challenge. Less than 5 minutes to go, up 26, and he won. Because that is what's going on with this team right now. So the heart of this team is so much fun. And Matt, you're right. The way New York responds to them is incredible. I hope that to me, I used to live in New York for a long time, a couple decades, and there's nothing to me like the Garden when that team is on a roll. We've been waiting so long for it to happen again. I can't wait to see it. I hope this continues to some degree and gives us some good playoff matchups. So we will see. We know we're getting good playoff matchups in the West because KD in Phoenix has been a movie, guys. The Suns are 3-0 with him. Durant's numbers since he arrived, 27 points a game, 7 assists, 53% from three-point percentage. We're talking with producer Nate over here. Do you think he is the most plug-and-play superstar ever? Because you can put him anywhere, we know that. But compare him to guys in the past.
Absolutely. I don't think, and I've been saying this for a while, now the days where superstars are changing teams, it normally takes time for not only the superstar to kind of find his footing, but, playing with the superstar as either, a sidekick or a role player sometimes difficult. But I think KD's efficiency is what makes him so easy to just plug and play. His ability to get to his spots when he wants. And this kind of reminds me, Rach and Jack, of when he went to the Golden State the first time, where he kind of just fit in and played his role. And then when the playoffs came, that's when he showed up. When the finals came, he showed up the entire season, but he put the cape on come playoff time. So I really just think his arrival is obviously going to help Devin Booker. Book's not going to see the same looks he's seen as far as double teams, traps, shifts, because he has KD on the other side of the floor. It's going to help Chris Paul because we all know Chris is my dog, but he's just getting older. You know, his numbers are, I think, at 9 points and 8 assists since KD's joined the team. But I know in the playoffs, those will go up. And then we can't forget about Ayton. I mean, Ayton is one of, this is not a game of bigs anymore. There's a handful of very good bigs. But Ayton, to me, is that next tier behind Joker and Embiid as far as bigs that is versatile, can pick and pop, rebounds like a monster, and protects the paint. So I really like, obviously, it's only been 3 games, and we don't know what is to come. But if this team is healthy, with Booker and KD and CP orchestrating things, Phoenix is going to be very scary to me in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I echo that, Matt. I mean, KD, you can put KD anywhere. When he retires, he's going to probably be the most efficient player to touch the game. As you see, you know what I'm saying, to continue to get over 30 points the other night, shooting 12 for 17. Like, that's just crazy efficient. And he's been doing it his whole career. I think to echo Matt, the person who's going to get the most out of it is not Ayton. To me, it's Chris Paul, because if you see in the Dallas Mavericks game, they was doubling KD and helping off Devin Booker, and Chris Paul got a lot of wide open threes. If he can knock those shots down, his average can go up from 9 to 15, 18 in a heartbeat, because he's going to get a lot of open shots and he can knock them down. And they're going to need him to knock them shots down in the playoffs, because that's definitely what they're going to do. They're going to make somebody else beat them besides KD and Booker. But it's super scary. There's no reason for them not to be playing at the end of the season, Rach.
In a league where it's either 3 points or paint scoring and they want to give up that mid-range, you have 3 of the most efficient mid-range shooters in the game in CP, Book, and KD. So, again, there's no holes in this offense. And if they can stay healthy, it's going to be scary.
Well, it's interesting, though, about Chris, right? Because that 100% is going to be the book on this team defensively. We saw Dallas lay it out this past weekend. You're going to have to help on Durant and Booker. And they have decided, hey, Chris Paul, look, he's shooting 42% this season, which I think is his second worst shooting percentage of any season of his career, not to the standard he's used to or he likes to put out. And I think teams are going to lay off him a bit to make him prove them wrong. We saw, especially from deep, if you were a Phoenix Suns player not named Durant or Booker in that Dallas game, those guys were just 8 of 26 from 3. So I think that we are going to see teams try to do that more. For Chris Paul specifically, though, to me, his competitiveness is going to come out when he is presented with that. And we saw that in the Dallas game, too, right? Did not have a great first 3 quarters. They were laying off him. And in the fourth, that man came out, hit 2 threes, scored 8 points total, and had a lot of savvy IQ moves, not just moving guys around the court, dealing with the officials, all that kind of stuff. Matt, you know Chris better than almost anyone else. You played with him. You guys are good friends. Your neighbors, your kids play together. What do you know about Chris, especially in the postseason, if this continues, if guys do lay off of him defensively?
Well, he's got to be ready, Rach. Obviously he's a Hall of Fame point guard, coming down to the tail end of his career. And, I definitely would like to see him have another opportunity to win a ring. But, as both you guys said, that the game plan is going to be Book and CP, or Book and KD. So what is Chris going to be able to give you? And I have confidence. Like I said, I think the window is really shutting. It's coming towards an end on a Hall of Fame career, but I know he still has some left in the tank. And with this team right now, I think right now he's just orchestrating. I think he knows come playoff time, he's going to have to up his average, at least 5 or 6 points to really be a threat out there. And then again, along with Ayton and some of those guys on the bench, they're going to have to do their job. But, I'll take a problem all day if, you're telling me that, we're going to have to see what, CP is going to give us. Like I said, he's not the CP of old, but I'm sure he still has something left in the tank because he knows it's coming down to the end.
I think it's fascinating with Durant, too, with the idea that he's gotten all this criticism stack of, oh, you join this team, you join that team, you join that team. You're kind of fitting into someone else's team. In the end, that could end up being... Well, that could end up being the strength, right? That could be the thing in the end that we remember his career for as a strength, that he's the guy who could fit in anywhere. He is the guy who could go to any team and be a major player and the best player on the team. I just think it's interesting that the thing that like the internet has criticized him over could end up being one of the like elite hallmarks of his career.
Well, I mean, Rich, I'm not nowhere close to the player Durant was, but for a while I was known as that player that a lot of teams was one player away. I got to San Antonio, I was that player to get a championship. I went to Indiana, they were saying I was that one player. Getting to go to State, I said, so I was always that guy, but not on the level as KD. But if the way that he's able to go anywhere and play the same game with the same greatness, with the same efficiency, Rachel, I mean that's greatness, and there's nowhere else you can explain that.
Yeah,
I think it's fascinating.
But it is what it is.
You know it. You know it. And by the way, anyone still hating on Kevin Durant needs to get their eyes checked and maybe like a different sport. Just saying. We were talking about the Mavericks leaving some players open, including Chris, at the end of that game over the weekend. Speaking of leaving people open, Russell Westbrook, ladies and gentlemen, we saw what Draymond did to him last week. But in general, we got to take a look at how this Clippers experiment is working, because they were 10-4 before they added Russell Westbrook. They were on that 14-game streak where they were really cooking. The starting lineup seemed like Ty Lue had finally gotten guys playing together, found his rhythm. They, I think, were the number 4 seed in the West, and now they are 1-5 with Westbrook in the starting lineup, and they have tumbled down into the play-in section of the bracket. Their only win, that 1-5, their only win was a Grizzlies team without Ja Morant that was in the middle of a lot of turmoil. What do you guys, I mean, I guess, I don't know, Matt, just start with, what do you think the biggest issues are here, and what do you think they should do about them?
I don't know. It's tough, Rach, because his numbers aren't bad. You know what I mean? Outside of his turnovers, he's averaging 15, 8, and 4, but he's averaging 4 turnovers. So that obviously you want to cut down on that, but it's hard because sometimes number can be deceiving, and I never got a chance to play with Russ, so I don't know what his presence is like, and I don't mean in a negative way, but I mean on a court from a standpoint of guys that are used to having, Norman Powell could be, he's a top 3 contender for 6th man of the year. Terrence Mann has shown, to me, he's kind of struggled all year, kind of trying to find his footing, but then you bring someone in such as a Russell Westbrook, who on paper looks like you can definitely help the team because this team needs playmakers, but again, I don't know how those 2 guys that I just mentioned are going to able to blend with Russ, because outside of Kawhi and PG, Russ is going to be the next guy with the ball in his hands the most, and that's obviously going to take away from Powell. That's obviously going to take away from Terrence Mann's ability to score and make plays. So I don't know what it is. The record tells you, oh, this is not working, but I don't, me playing basketball long enough, I know that may not be the case, but I don't know whether it's bringing him off the bench or just maybe they're in a bad funk right now and they can turn the corner. But again, Russ's numbers are solid. It looks like he's making, he's making a positive impact. The record hasn't shown that, but I wonder with his ball dominance outside of their 2 superstars, how's that going to affect Norman Powell and Terrence Mann and the other guys that are used to having the ball in their hands a little bit?
I'm not gonna panic right now, Rach. I'll panic when the season is over and they don't make the playoffs, right? When they get to that position.
Well, that would be bad because some people picked them to win this year, so that would be a big fall.
I mean, and I understand that, because they should be at the top of the West, with being there before he got there. But I'm just saying, my point is that they played 5-6 games with him, and they haven't been winning. Okay, they still have enough time to turn this thing around and put themselves in a great position come playoff time. But if they don't do it, then you got to look at it as a problem. So that's why I'm not really panicking yet, because it's still new and they have time rates. But if they don't, we're gonna be talking about it in a different way.
It's right. It's just hard because, as you say, Matt, some of his numbers are really totally workable. The turnovers have not just been a problem, but they've been at bad times. So I think that has kind of put the spotlight on those as well. His decision-making, as we know, is just not as strong as some of the other people at his position. So that has come into play as well. And in the end, chemistry's a tough thing. Like sometimes it's hard to point to the reason, but we just know that team was cooking before he got there. Him in the starting lineup has not had them cooking. I don't know if the Clippers had to tell him he would start so that he picked them over, say, Chicago or DC or any of the other places that might have been looking for him. I'm not sure if that was a good decision, if that did happen. I'm not reporting anything. I have no idea if that's what happened. I was surprised to see him in the starting lineup as much as he's been, considering that he really found success with the Lakers playing off the bench.
Off
so
the
you would
bench.
think that
Yep.
that is how he would be for the Clippers, and that's sort of what I thought that they needed. We will see if they go back to that at some point with him. The Clippers do have some practice days coming up, which they haven't had a lot of this season, but the schedule is going to get a little looser for them. I know Ty Lue is looking forward to that. The stretch that they have played with Russ has been some tough games. They played some good opponents, so I don't know if that factors into it. But to me, this is a real interesting situation. And you said it, Matt, that how these last 20 games or so go for Russ is going to really impact how people see him for the rest of his time here in the NBA. And I'm very curious how this marriage is going to be. We'll see. We got to talk legendary moments presented by Top Shot Friends. The scoring surge in the NBA this season has been wild, I tell you. 6 players averaging 30 a game, ton of huge stat lines. So I want to bring you back to a couple particular big nights, right? We had Dame and Donovan both dropping 71. Luka had that 60, 21-10 back in December. Embiid was absurd. Do you remember that 59, 11, 8 with 7 blocks? That monster performance.
Yeah,
So Stack,
crazy.
which of these guys generated the most memorable moment, stat line moment? What would you want to see on a Top Shot?
For me, I just like the way Embiid's looked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the way. I just love the way he plays. You know, he's one of the, like Akeem Olajuwon, he's one of the most skilled big men that we've ever seen. And to see the way he puts up those big numbers and in a dominant fashion is what I love to see, because you don't see that much. You know, you have him and Jokic and Greek Freak putting up those type of numbers, but to the way he does it, you know, with the step backs, the fadeaways as a big man, I think it's beautiful to see.
Give me Luka. I love Luka. I love his game. I love how young he is, and to me, to think that this guy's only going to get better is crazy. What he's able to do with his body type and lack of athleticism, to still be as effective as he is on the court. This guy is a genius on the court, and he's must-watch basketball for me. So give me a Top Shot of Luka. Maybe smoking a cigarette or something.
I want him with his recovery beer. That would be the Top Shot, is him drinking the recovery beer. I don't know, guys.
Yep.
Damian Lillard, 71 points, I think was the most efficient 70-point game ever. I mean, he has been just out of hand this season. But Stack, I want to go back to the Embiid thing for a second, only because the stat line we were talking about that particular night, the thing that made it special to me was that he also had the 7 blocks. And this gets into that larger conversation about how we see Joel Embiid and how we see defense in the league in general right now, is that when you look at, say, the MVP candidates, which has been, kind of back into the discussion now that we're getting closer to voting time, how much do you put stock in the fact that this guy is a monster on the other side of the floor? And when you talk about these great performances, the fact that he's doing it at both ends, how much does that matter to you guys? Does that push his performance where he's 59, 11, and 8 because he had the 7 blocks versus a guy like Luka who did, as you said, it was incredible that night. It was incredible, but it's not like he was playing phenomenal defense.
Right. Go ahead, Jack.
How do you see it?
I think we look at guys a different way that do everything, Race. That it's called basketball. It's not called offense. It's called basketball. You're right. And a lot of people, the way the game is played right now, they're not going to watch basketball. They're going to watch offense. So when I played and Matt played, we were two guys that loved and took pride in playing defense in both sides of the ball. So to see a guy at that magnitude, the way he can be, close to Greek Freak, being dominant every night, one of the most dominant players in the game, to see him take pride in defense and the block shots, and that says a lot about what he feels about his team and how much pride he takes and the load he's putting on his own shoulders to make sure this team succeed. You got to love that in one of your star guys, to give that effort. A lot of guys don't give that effort. They just want to score points and look good on one end. But the name of the game is basketball, and Embiid gets that, Rach.
Look, you guys appreciate great scoring. I know that. You guys played defense at a level. I watched you guys play defense. You guys played defense at a level we don't see with a lot of guys today. How much would you take it into account? How much when you're, again, when we get back into this MVP discussion, and by the way, Nikola Jokic, his defense has improved so much. He plays completely solid defense. It is just not Joel Embiid level defense. I don't think that's arguable. But Jokic's offensive numbers are better. How much are you taking both of those things into account as former players?
I think it should be taken into account, and I think, unfortunately, because of the way the game changed, it's not taken into account. it's both sides of the ball is not taken into account anymore. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because Embiid is someone who you could say the last 2 years is right there. Could have won one, could have won both, but has won none. And then you look at this year where his flashes and what he's able to do for his team and continuing to, hit their stride at the right time. He's right in the mix. You know what I mean? So he definitely does more on the defensive end than Joker. Granted, Joker's got better, but at the same time, I don't even think people give a shit about defense anymore, to be honest with you, when it comes down to accolades, unless it's Defensive Player of the Year.
Stack, what would you, if you were voting, how much would you take defense into account?
It's everything to me, Rach. I mean, it's everything because, like I said,
that's a decider for you.
Yes, it's part of it because that's the part of playing the game. And I don't know how to explain it, Rach. You've been around the game long enough. You know how we played the game and how we take pride in the game and stopping your man. That feels stopping a guy at the end of the game, Rachel. At the end of the buzzer from hitting the shot feels just as good as a guy hitting a buzzer beater. It's the same thing. So for us, it's a different feeling.
All right. So next week, I'm going to challenge our producers to find an NBA Top Shot amazing moment centered on defense. We'll see if we can get that done. I don't know.
Well, I can give you one right now, Rach. LeBron.
Okay, what?
LeBron on Iguodala.
Well, yeah.
LeBron on Iguodala. That was a big block. And then
no, of course, but I mean from this season.
Oh, from this season, yeah. Okay, well, I can think of a lot.
We'll find one. I got some nominees. You all can start your NBA Top Shot collection today at NBATopShot.com. Get closer to the game and players you love. Sign up today. All right, let's get to the On the Radar segment presented by DraftKings. Coach of the Year odds here. Mike Brown, Joe Mazzulla being in the top two. All right, which ones do you guys have put these teams in their best position? Who do you think the favorite is? Stack?
I got to go with my guy Mike Brown. I wouldn't have had the NBA career. I got a shot at San Antonio or Indiana if it wasn't for my guy Mike Brown. He gave me some key words when I was in New Jersey my first year, and that's how I was able to keep my mind right that season. When Byron Scott instantly stopped playing me, he kept me focused from another team, and he let me know that he was coming to get me. So Mike Brown's my guy. What he's able to do in Sacramento is really just bring that championship experience, that composure, that understanding of defense, and how you have to be on the string. Everybody's responsible for their own job on defense, but you have to be on the string with your brothers, and they showing that, and that's why they having success. So I got to give kudos to my guy Mike Brown. He definitely deserves it.
To me, hats off to Mazzulla, but definitely going to go with Mike Brown. And, Rachel and Jack, at the beginning of the season, I didn't know if this was the right hire because we had him in L.A. and it didn't go good. It was ugly. But I really think that pit stop in Golden State completely changed him, bettered him, seasoned him. And what he brought to Sacramento is a foundation, a leadership. And then like Jack said, he's a tremendous teacher. I mean, obviously I work for them and he calls those quick early timeouts that veteran teams might go crazy for. Like, what the fuck you calling this timeout for? This younger team, this younger team adapts to it because he'll call a timeout 30 seconds into a game just to teach Keegan Murray or De'Aaron Fox how to get over a screen or where they're supposed to be. And I really appreciated that now, seeing that, because we had a veteran team with LA and that shit didn't fly at all and no one was really going for it. But again, this young Sacramento team who was looking for an identity, who was looking for a leader and a coach, Mike Brown has provided all that. These guys are a half game out of second, and all the self-inflicting, trauma that Memphis has caused themselves. I think Sacramento is going to slide into that second spot. And to think this team hasn't been to the playoffs in 16 years. First-year head coach in Sacramento, has got the best. He, produced 2 All-Stars, has a team playing at a very high level. My only thing with them, but they need to be able to pick their defense up if they want to make any noise in the playoffs. But definitely hats off to Mike Brown, and it was a great hire that the Kings made by bringing Mike Brown in.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the fact that he faced adversity, that he had some stumbles, and then actually took the time to not be stubborn, but say, I can learn something here in Golden State. We spent a lot of time with him during that run, especially when he had to take over for Steve for a little bit, when Steve was having all those back issues. And I really think that it did change him. And he was always, he's always been a great guy. I mean, he's always been one of the all-time good guys around the league, and such a great defensive coach, and so many strengths. But the fact that he has been able to put it all together to a degree that he has here in Sacramento. He is my coach of the year choice for sure. Yep. I will say all of the recent Joe Mazzulla slander, especially coming out of Boston. I know Celtics fans, you're very wrapped up with the team, and anytime there's a stumble, there's an issue. He did not play the right lineup the other day. There have been some at the end of games, some mistakes, but come on. I think Mazzulla has done a really, really strong job all season in a situation where he stepped in at the beginning of the season cold, and I think that team has done so many good things, and I think that they will right themselves by the time the playoffs get started, even though they've had like a micro stumble here. So I don't like all the Joe Mazzulla slander I've been hearing in the state of Massachusetts, but I will say Mike Brown, coach of the year. All right, I want to get to our closing thoughts here because we do got to talk about the other team in LA. Anthony Davis has played a wild last 5 games, 30 points a game, 12 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists a game. They're 3-2 in this stretch run of must wins. They don't have LeBron for at least the next 3 weeks, probably maybe a little longer. They are both not anywhere near the play-in and yet also 5 games out of 5th place. I don't know. Is AD under the most pressure of any of these stars around the league right now because he could possibly get his team into the postseason on his back? We've got Dame Lillard, Kawhi, Jimmy Butler, Luka, Kyrie, all in these pressure positions. But is AD the most sort of the scrutiny under him?
I think AD is under pressure. What can he do with this team without LeBron? I think he's showing that again, but only thing that we've ever questioned Anthony Davis about is his availability. When he's on the court, he's one of the best players in the world. He is under pressure, but I think someone who needs to be under more pressure, who hasn't been under any pressure, is the 2-time MVP and the person who possibly could be the 3-time MVP in Joker. You know, how many times can you be MVP but not really take your team to the next level? And I say this with all due respect. We all know he's a tremendous talent, but, you know, why isn't he under the microscope? He's number 1 in the West. He's won 2 MVPs in a row. They're talking about this will be his 3-peat. I think that'll be the first time since Larry Bird, if I'm not mistaken. But when is the pressure going to be put on him to, hey, you got to get your team over? You've earned these, but you see your team hasn't really done what they're supposed to do. You know, to me, the bubble Western Conference appearance to me doesn't hold very much weight. They got to do it now, you know, and we've talked about this. You know, Jack and I were never high on Utah. Utah was a great regular season team a handful of years ago and never did anything in the playoffs. I think the most pressure this year is going to be on Luka. Great talent, deserving, if he is given that 3rd MVP, deserving of the MVP. But there's at this point, with everyone healthy, he has to get his team to that next level.
All right, Jack, you just want to piggyback that about either Jokic or AD?
Yeah, I kind of go Jokic too, and that's crazy. You know me, right? That's just crazy. All the people that came through the league, Larry Bird and Jokic are going to be the only 2 to 3-peat the MVP. That's crazy.
There's a few more, but he's the first one in so long. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But I've been said this. I've been on that. I think that they've been going around and putting pressure on them. You know, ever since the bubble. You know what I'm saying? They made it to play the Lakers in the bubble. You know, and really. It wasn't him who showed up. It was Murray. Murray had those 50-point games when it counted. So, you know, I just feel like he's a great regular season player, but after 2 years in a row, even after a year, you give a guy MVP, and the next year you give it to him again, and he don't go for in the playoffs. You got to start thinking about that 3rd year because it has to say you have to give it to a guy who's well. What do you say to a guy, Rach, that dominates all year, then dominates all regular season? Like, what do you say to him? You know what I mean? Like I think he deserves that award too. You know, and we know a lot of guys that come into this season that dominate all regular season, and we know what their teams are going to do in the playoffs. We know what's expected, and they do it. So I think those guys should be rewarded too.
Well, look, I'm going to buy in on Jokic until he shows me I shouldn't. Only in that, look, that Nuggets team is number 1 in the West. They have held on to number 1 in the West. You can't ask them to be better than that right now. You can only play the games in front of you, and right now it's the regular season. So that's what he's doing. His numbers are great. I did say earlier in this show, I would like to see a little bit more of the defensive discussion come into play, just because I do believe that I was about to say, Stack, I believe it's a 2-way game, but I think that's also, when you said it's not called basketball, it's called offense. It shouldn't be a 2-way game. It's a game. A game involves both ways. It's just ridiculous to me that we make that distinction. But that being said, I think Jokic has done what we have asked him to do so far. That team's made it to the Western Conference Finals. I just do think he's at the point where they do need to get to the finals because I think a lot of people think that he needs to win before we can continue to heap this regular season stuff. And we saw this same discussion with James Harden, by the way.
Right.
People saying, oh, great, he's great in the regular season. What are you doing for me in the playoffs? So I do think it's interesting. I do want to say Anthony Davis should be given a lot of credit for what he's doing right now, but he is under a lot of pressure to move that Lakers team as we get toward the postseason without LeBron James. And that will not be let you leave here, Stack, without asking you about a recent tweet from LeBron, as long as we're on the subject. He tweets the other night, man, Bronny definitely better than some of these cats I've been watching on League Pass today. This shit lightweight hilarious. So, Steven, does LeBron have too much free time at home with that injury? Or do you think possibly his 12th grade son is better than some of the guys in the NBA?
I mean, well, two things. One, only he can get away with that. Two,
yes.
on the good side, he should be his son's biggest fan, so I ain't mad at him for that.
Yes. 100%. Absolutely. And we could actually kind of guess from the timing of the tweet which game he was watching. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I do kind of know who he was talking about. Anyway, What's Burnin', friends, available every week on Showtime Basketball YouTube, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Show Basketball. Thank y'all. We'll see you next week.
They're coming for the belt, and they're coming for the bag.
They're all about knocking each other out of the tournament.
Yes, I'm on a mission. The $1 million Bellator Lightweight Grand Prix begins with a monster match. Undefeated 24-year-old champ Usman Nurmagomedov makes his first title defense against 30-win veteran Benson Henderson.
There you go.
I'm a certified winner. Bellator MMA, Friday on Showtime.